In this video I will show you how to set the accelerator pump on the Keithin FCR39 flat slide carburetors. So these ones are of a Triumph T300, and the way you change the accelerator pump is by increasing or decreasing the gap here, as you can see. And if you increase the gap, you will have a stronger squirt and a longer duration. It's also supposed to come on a little bit later, but I didn't really see that in my tests. If the gap is smaller, the squirt will be weaker and shorter, but supposed to come on earlier as opposed to later if it's more gap. I'm not sure if I said that correctly first time. So I had a problem with these carburetors. When I opened the throttle quickly, the bike bogged down. And this is, some people say this is a feature of these carburetors, and I guess to some extent that's true. But you can also adjust the accelerator pump, because most likely that was a lean bog when you open them very quickly. You don't get enough fuel, but you get a lot of air at one time. So I opened the gap a little bit more here, and I actually connected also the throttle cable to my bike here, because the first times I tried to put my clumsy little fingers in here and, you know, open the throttle just with this adjuster, but I noticed I'm pretty slow and clumsy, so I thought it was better to try to make the real deal and put on the throttle cable here. And I connect my fuel line here with some fuel up there. And what we will do now is we will take a look here. We will open the throttle and we'll see the squirt from the accelerator pump. We'll see if it's strong and long. So the way I will measure the time here is I will do this a few times and film it like I'm doing now, so maybe like 3 or 5 times. And then I will look in the computer, because it's very hard to time this. So we'll go back and look at the video, and then we can time the actual duration of the squirt. And some people say about half to 1 second. Some people say 0.4 to 0.8 seconds. So I want to aim for maybe, I don't know, 0.6, 0.7, and then put it back on the bike and test ride it and see how well it goes. So let's do this. I will put later, will write below what timing I had, what duration I had on this squirt, because this looks pretty good. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, I saw the first one because I just opened the fuel line now, so I saw the first one was very weak there. Let's do a few ones and then actually measure it, so we make sure we have fuel in the carburetors. Yeah, now it looks even. Okay, so now we'll start. Okay, that's 5 times. Okay, so if I want to make this weaker and shorter duration, we'll squeeze this together. I could do it as an example. One thing to look out for though when you mess with this gap here is that this part could actually get bent to the side when you do this, and if you bend it, the position of this will change, and then the gap will not mean the same as when this is straight, for example. And I guess also theoretically this part could be bent when you change the gap, the lower part here, instead of just the upper part, which is thinner, and that's supposed to set the gap. So even if you set a gap now and you measure it with this one, and then you change it without looking if you actually change the other parts, then you might get, you know, a different reading. So I think the best thing is to do is just set a gap to start with, measure your duration, and then write that down, test it out, and if that's not satisfactory, you will just go back You change the setting and then you measure the duration again and see if that changed at all. I think this video is quite long, so I'll make another one where I squeeze this together and show you how it looks with a weak squirt, short duration and weak. Okay, now I use these pliers here and I set the gap much more narrow, so you can see if compared to my previous video. Now they're almost touching each other. I will just look at the squirt and see how it changed. So, okay, time to measure duration now. Let's see. Let's do 5 times per carburetor and then count the frames on the computer of the video and take the average for each carburetor. It's the first one, the second one. And the last one. They should all be equal, I guess. But it doesn't hurt to check that. Okay, now I did 5 measurements for each carburetor. I'll put this video in the on the computer and I'll check how many frames, and then I know how many seconds or milliseconds the duration is.